to Garden Talk with Jacon and Don. Tonight, I took it a bit too far. Viewer discretion is advised.
What's her name? Shabong or something like that.
Shabong.
Well, it was something like that. Shabong or something. I don't know.
Well, let's call her Wanda. Call her Wanda.
Shabong something, and Mark and I just called her Shabong. And, but yeah, Mark had just moved in. He had just moved in, and the shit in his apartment was still broken. They did a half-assed job putting his place back together before he moved in. And parts of it were just absolute filth. Just filth. It was disgusting. And I don't remember what it was that was broke. Oh, it was his closet door. The closet door was hanging off the fucking hinges.
Really?
And remember, Mark was a property manager. He just came from being a property manager for Hollywood Community Housing for 10 years over at the senior building on Argyle. So he knew it. This isn't right. And several times we went down to find her, and she wasn't there, and there were no requests.
Yeah.
The repair requests.
Right.
And one time we didn't see her. I wanted an application for the building also, and I said she was coming out of the office.
She was pregnant.
Well, she was pregnant with twins, and she was a very big woman anyways. She's like 6 foot something, and she's pregnant with triplets. She's triplets. Like Irwin. But then Mark said, "Oh, I'm trying to find. Can I have a repair request form? Because the door in my closet is hanging on by the hinges, and if you touch it, it's gonna fall off. And it's been like that since I moved in 2 months ago." And she said, "If I don't know it's broken, it ain't need fixing. My feet hurt. I'm gonna go to bed." Okay. And I looked at Mark and I said, "What time is it?" He said, "It's 2 in the afternoon." And I said, "She's going to bed?" And he said, "Well, she's pregnant with triplets."
Triplets? I thought it was twins.
No, it was triplet. I keep saying twins. It was triplets.
Okay.
And yeah, and I said, "Well, what about an application?" "I don't know nothing about no applications." Okay. And I said, "No, it's not okay." And I thought I was talking to Mr. Mackey for a second there from South Park. Okay. My feet hurt. I'm going upstairs, lie down. Okay. And she didn't know nothing about no applications. Okay? So I just, every time I saw her, I just said, "Can I have an application?" Okay. And she's like, "What?" I said, "Can I have an application?" And she said, "Why are you talking like that?" I said, "I don't know nothing about no applications. Told you that before." So.
You should say, "If I talk like you, maybe you give me what I want."
Well,
until you understand
that was the whole
me.
thing. I'm thinking, Mark said, "Well, why don't you try talking more her
ethnic.
No, it's not the word he used. It was more her educational upbringing. Slang. And of course, I took it a little too far. And Mark would be laughing because he'd be at the mailbox and I'd be knocking at the door in the office. I thought I'd act like Irwin. Because she seemed to talk to him a lot.
Well, he was like her. They had something in common.
Okay.
They share a scale together.
Same scale, that's for sure. But yeah, so I didn't get an application from her. Who I did get an application from though, like a while later, when she got fired or quit. And
When she had the litter.
Yeah, the litter dropped. was it Don? Paul. Don's brother, Paul. Paul was the manager.
Yeah, Paul. Yeah.
Paul was the manager, and well, I was high on meth, so I was at that point. I'd relapsed, and I was a little scared to go get an application. So, do you remember John, who lived upstairs on the 3rd floor? He was the fat Latino drug dealer.
No, I didn't know anybody
he was one
up
of the
there.
first people in the building too.
I didn't know any of those people upstairs.
John. Anyways, there was this guy Brian that I used to hang out with that I liked. But then I ended up hanging out with John because John had lots of drugs.
Right.
But anyways, Fernando was just getting kicked out of the building, and Paul told John that he didn't have any applications right now for anybody who was qualified to move in. So John gave me an application, and I was too high to fill it. And then I ended up getting sober, or not getting sober. I ended up getting out of here, going to New York, and then I went to Indiana. And while I was in Indiana, I filled out the application and I mailed it in. But I dated it
back then.
The date that I got it, because it was already dated. I put my name and my date on it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first day. So when it got sent in. I put the date a little earlier.
Uh-huh.
It was a little earlier.
It was slow in the mail.
Well, no, it was like maybe it'll get just shuffled in with the right date, or with the date that I put in there, and I'll jump ahead of the pack. I just thought I'd try that, because I knew the managers weren't for shit, and I sent it return receipt requested, so because Mark told me to do that, and when I was in Indiana, that way I would know that they got it, and I could prove the day that they got it.
Right.
And when I got the receipt back in the mail, I called Don. I called Don and I said, "Oh, I see. This is Ziegler.
Joseph.
Joseph Ziegler. It's Joseph Ziegler, and I go by Jason. This is Joseph Ziegler, and I got the return receipt that you got the application. Yeah, I got that. He says, nobody sent one in like that before to me. And I said, okay, are there any problems with the application? He said, no, it's fine to me. I filed it. Okay. So when I moved in the building, I changed my address several times, and I needed to refill out the application with the current addresses.
Right.
And I didn't realize how sooner I had put that date.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at the application, man, he said just transfer everything exactly as from this to this, except for update your last, the addresses. And I said, okay. And I looked at the date and I said, I don't think that's the date that I sent in this application. Because it was a year earlier. It was August, and I thought I put it maybe in September. I mean, not September. I thought I maybe put it like in July of that same year, but I did it the year before.
So you really won the first.
And I got shuffled, and I said, but I don't think that. He says, well, that's the date that's on there. And I said, huh. Well, that's very interesting. I don't remember filling out an application before Mark moved in the building. But, okay.
Yeah,
and I filled it out.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a sign from God, because then I got to be Mark's neighbor. And everything worked out perfect with our love-hate relationship. And I got in a few years early because of poor management and not paying attention to the date. Because I said to Manny, I said, well, what happened if I was already in the building at this point. They were just having me refill out shit. I said, well, what would happen if I would put this date? He says, well, you can't. That'd be fraud. Because that's the date that it has on the application. So therefore, that's the date that it is. And I said, okay.
Pays to be sneaky.
Well, I was just trying to give myself a fair advantage because Section 8 kept losing my information for several years as people that in rehab that I took to Section, that I got hooked up at the Section 8 thing, got vouchers and got in their apartment. They were still losing my application.
Right.
Which shows me that there's somebody there who probably knew who I was and didn't like me. Which, whatever. But anyways, because of that bullshit that went on for years, I thought, I was kind of more entitled than anything to have a little dispensation.
And you're used to being in the building anyway. I mean,
Oh,
you were breaking the building in from apartment to apartment to get a
well,
feel
yeah,
for
I
it.
lived here. I lived in Mark's apartment. I lived in Jody's apartment. I lived with Fernando for a couple of weeks. And I lived in John's
So you were trying
I
all
lived
out.
in John's apartment for 3 months before I fucking finally went to rehab. And got, I mean, not rehab. Before I finally bailed out of here and went and stayed in New York with my ex Joe. There's a reason why people are exes, and they should not live together.
Oh no.
Especially when one of them is just newly sober and the other one claims to be 9 months sober but is drinking every day.
Well, he's not as drinking as much.
It was medicinal. It was medicinal.
It's medicine.
Yeah, Joe, that was not a good idea, me being there with Joe, because Joe was an absolute disaster. Just a fucking disaster. And I'm going to meetings every day. That's why I went to New York. That's why I didn't know anybody. So if I went to AA meetings every day, like twice a day, once in the afternoon, once in the evening, I got to meet people. That's how I was meeting people. And I met hundreds of people in New York, just all AA people, and we all knew each other. I got invited to dinner parties and crap like that. And then Joe got jealous because when Joe's older than me. And Joe's 21 years older than me. Well, so Joe doesn't exactly hang around the crowd that I would hang around with, but Joe thought that he should hang around with the crowd that I was hanging around with. And I was being taken to dinner and parties on Park Avenue with these sober AA guys who were wealthy and, you know, and all this kind of shit. And so Joe's getting more jealous and more jealous and more jealous and more jealous and more jealous. And it was like, this isn't competition. We're going to fucking meetings all the time, meeting all these people and getting invited to all these parties and stuff. I said, well, every time I tell you, if you want to come, you can come. They're sober. And he didn't like the fact that they were sober because the people Joe hung out with
We're drunks.
were not, so they were absolute fall down drunks.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.